Hello, we're going to go through just a basic introduction to downloading and installing Blender today. And we're going to look at how to move around the views and how to do some basic moving the information and making some meshes and moving those around. So we're just going to start with some basics. We'll go nice and slow. So this is just an introduction to the very beginning of Blender. I don't do this professionally. I'm not an expert, but this is just to get started, get things moving. So the first thing you have to do is go to Blender, www.blender.org here, and download Blender. And choose which operating system you have. For Windows, I just like to use the MSI installer. I use a 64-bit system. So choose the USA, hit this, and you'll download the install file for Blender. If you don't know whether you've got a 64 or 32-bit system, you can just type that in the search box and it'll tell you exactly how to find out which system you're using. It's pretty simple. So then once you've got it installed, follow the on-screen prompts. We're not going to go through that right now. Blender is totally free. It's open source. And so it's not going to have hidden charges or hidden advertisements or anything like that. That's not what the program is for. It's there to be used. It's there for creative purposes. So then once you have that, go ahead and open Blender. And it's going to look like this. So I'm running Blender 277A. It's fairly new, so it should be pretty easy. Most of it should be the same as whatever current version you're downloading now for the time being. So just go ahead and click on the background to get rid of that screen, and now we're looking at your basic opening screen for Blender. You've got a few elements here. You've got a grid, you've got a camera here, you've got your mesh. This one they just start you with a sample box. You've got a light, and that gets you started. And we're just going to go through and look at each of these elements and figure out how to move them around and what they're useful for. So first thing that I would do after installing Blender is I want to change the settings so they're a little bit more of what I'm used to. First thing, if you're like me, first thing you try to click on something and all you get is this little lifesaver ring looking thing. Just keeps moving around. You can't click on anything. That's because the buttons are backwards of what you normally would do. In most programs, your left click to select, and your right click would do whatever other options you've got. Well, this one default is backwards for some reason. I don't know what it is. So I just go in and switch it. So go up here to File, under User Preferences, and my user preferences disappeared. There they are. You can go into the Input tab, and here you can change to select with your left button or your right button. So this is your default, and I'm going to change mine here to use the left button. If you don't have a keypad on your keyboard, that's the number box to the right side of your keyboard. If you're working on a laptop or something that doesn't have a keypad, you can emulate that keypad here by turning this on. That'll use the numbers across the top as a keypad. Something I use a lot. So if you don't have a keypad, you'll want to use this, but if you do have a keypad, turn this off. Other things you can set here for defaults, you're going to want to make sure it's how you want it, save user settings, and close. So now when you use your left button, you can actually click on things and select them. And then your right button will move the little cursor around, and we'll explain what that's for later on. Maybe not this lesson. So now we've got that set up, let's talk about what it is we're looking at. This is a perspective viewport of the area you'll be working in. Right now, for default, this grid is a 1 unit grid. Every mark is 1 unit. The units haven't been assigned. When you get into physics and things like that later on in Blender, it won't matter what size it is, whether it's feet or inches or meters or whatever. But for now, without that, you can just have it be whatever you want, as long as we're not dealing with gravity and things like that. So this can be 1 foot, 1 meter. We just call it 1 unit, or some people call it 1 Blender unit, but I'll just call it 1 unit. So that's what we're looking at here. You've got different lines here to work as guides. The red line here is the x-axis. The green line here is the y-axis, and the blue line is the z-axis, or some people call it the z-axis, but I'm just calling it the z-axis. So this gives us our 3-dimensional space. This is 1 dimension, this is 1 dimension, and this is 1 dimension, going up and down. If you were to look at this from the top view, you see here in the corner it says top ortho. Then this is what you're used to seeing when you look at a grid. X is along the side, Y is up and down. I'm going to take a moment here and I'm going to turn on my display so you can see what keys it is I'm using. So here you can see most of the keys that I use here down on the corner as I hit them. So I just hit number 7 on the number pad and it takes me to the top view. This is an orthographic view. I'll explain what that is in a minute. If you hit number 1, that's the front view. Number 3 is the right view. And number 9 is the opposite of whatever it is you're looking at the moment. So if you're in the front and you hit number 9, you're looking at the back. If you're on the top and you hit number 9, you're looking at the bottom. If you hit, starting looking at the front, the arrow keys, the 8, 4, 6, and 2, those just rotate you around what it is you're looking at the moment. So you can move around that way, or you can use just the center button on your mouse, and you can click and grab and rotate that way. I've got mine set up so that I have to hold the shift button down to get the rotate. Default is that you don't have to do that. If you hold the shift button down, you actually will pan left and right. I've got it reversed so that it matches one of the other programs that I work in a lot, so that it's more natural for me. Most programs, though, are the opposite of what I've got it set here. So that's one way to move around. You can use your mouse wheel to roll in and out. You can also use the number pad, plus or minus. So those are options you have to move around, either using the keyboard or your mouse. The other thing is if you hit number 5 right in the middle, you will change this to what's called an orthographic view. User ortho is what this one is right now. It's your user view. And what you'll see here is that all of the lines are the same length. They don't get smaller as they get further away. This can be useful for doing certain things, but for the most part I find it confusing in Blender, and so I leave it on perspective. It is nice when you're looking at the side to have an ortho view, because you can see what the side view from the perspective kind of throws you off. So when you're looking directly from the top or bottom side, it automatically defaults to ortho. And when you start moving to a 3D view, it switches back to perspective. That's pretty handy. So that's one way to change your views and look around. You can keep your bearings by remembering that X is across, Y is up and down if you're looking from the top, and then Z is coming towards you, like that. And we're going to mess with moving stuff around, like right now. So right now we are in object mode here. Down here on the bottom, you've got different modes. You swap between these two using tab. We're going to stay in object mode. This moves things around and controls the whole unit in Blender. Next lesson we'll talk about changing shapes and things like that. So you're going to want to be able to move things. You got a problem though with Blender is if we're looking at something from this angle here. Let's say we're looking at it from this direction here, and I want to grab it and move it, and I want to move it towards me. And I do that, it's really hard to tell where it is now, because if you turn your view, you'll see that it actually dropped down quite a bit. Maybe I just wanted to move it towards me, or even if I wanted to move it along that X line, you see the grid through the box, and then if you go this way, you see it's above the ground. It's actually, the way Blender is whatever direction you're looking, if you just grab it and move it around, it'll always move it perpendicular to your viewpoint. So if you want to have a little more control, what you have to do is actually grab these little control bars here, these little movement bars. So the green line, if you grab the green arrow, you can slide it along the green axis. The red arrow lets you slide it along the red axis. And the blue lets you slide it along the blue axis, so that you can control it with pretty good accuracy that way. You can't always just get the spot you want. If you want to go in an odd, you end up having to move it a couple times to get it where you want. But it's better than just have it randomly dropping into different places based on what direction you're looking. So this gives you quite a bit of control doing that. You have another option is that you can grab this thing and then you hit G for grab, see down here in the corner, and now your mouse is stuck to it. And this moves it around just like before, like I'd clicked on it, except for now I can hit the key X, and now it will constrain it to the X-axis. I can hit the key Y, and now it'll only move along the Y-axis, and the Z will only move it up and down. So if I don't want to grab those little arrows, or if I'm working in a situation where the arrows are gone, maybe it's on a rotate or something like that, then you can do it that way. So we can do that. The other option we have is we can rotate. So we can either use, so for moving it, we have these arrows option, this arrow option here. If you go down here below, you've got the option to translate. You've got the option to rotate. You've got the option to scale. So right now, we're in the translate option. If we hit rotate, then we have these axes, and if you grab the green one, it rotates around the green axis. The red one will rotate it around the red axis, and the blue one will rotate it around the blue axis. Or you can hit R for rotate, and this one will rotate it kind of freestyle. If you hit X, again, it'll go around the X-axis, Y around the Y-axis, and Z around the Z-axis. Now I haven't clicked or anything, so if you grab the wrong one, you can just cycle through just by hitting what letters you want. Real simple. And if you don't want to move it, you hit escape. That'll leave you back to where you were. So that way you can control rotation of your object. So you can move it, you can rotate it, and then the last one is you can scale it. So this one looks kind of like the translate option with the arrows, except for these are little balls. You can grab it and drag it along that direction. So up, over, and over. Now the other option you've got, just like before, is you have G for grab, R for rotate, or you can hit S for scale, and then it scales the whole thing. If you want to just scale one axis, you just, like before, for moving or for rotating, you just hit X, and now it will only scale along the X-axis. Y will only go along the Y-axis, and Z will only go along the Z-axis. Something that's kind of cool is if you hit Shift and one of the options, say Shift Z, now it will scale the X and the Y-axis, but not the Z-axis. So that's kind of a handy trick to have right there. Now, we've moved this thing all over the place, and so I want to put it back to the way it was. So what I'm going to do is up here on the right side, there's a hidden pull-out menu that you can get to by hitting, there's like a plus button up here, and I'll move it over, and there's my menu will come up. And as I go up to the very top, this is the transform, location, rotation, scale of my box. So my rotation's all over the place, so I'm going to hit 0, tab to the next one, 0, tab to the next one, and now it's back to the normal size. Scale is, I'm going to scale it 1, 1, and 1. Now it's back to normal that way. And the original dimensions of the box were 2 units in all directions. Location, I'm going to put the location back into the center and just tab through. So now it's back to being reset. And we're on the scale option, so I'm going to set this back to the translate option now, just because that's kind of the normal. It's what I'm used to. We've got one more key that we can look at here, and that is the camera view. It's hard to line the camera up necessarily the way you want. You sort of kind of get in front of it, and sort of have to move it around, and it's sort of awkward. So there's a shortcut key for that as well. If you hit the number 0, it actually shows you what it is the camera sees. This will be important later as you begin to render your pictures. In fact, we'll do a render here real quick. Render the image and show exactly what it is that the camera is looking at. And escape to get out of that, but you'll see it doesn't show the grids, it doesn't show the alignment lines. It only shows what the light is hitting. And so you can move the camera around just like you move the box. It's an object. So the camera is selected here. The camera is selected around the outside. You can see that. So if I click on the box, now the box has got the light orange outline. Click on this. Now the camera is there. So I can hit rotate. Rotates the camera. Let's say I want to rotate it along the z-axis. I hit Z. Now it will only move along the z-axis. What about Y? Now we'll rotate along the y-axis. It's kind of awkward. So another way we can do this, we'll hit escape, is if we change this here to lock camera view, and I now can use my number pads to move around, or I can use my mouse again, just like changing my view like I'm used to. So that way I can set it up exactly where I want. Once I've got the camera fixed to where I want it to be looking, I turn this off here. Now the camera is now looking that direction. So as I run an animation, which I did by hitting F12 there, it's looking at the box from a different direction. Hit escape to get back out. So, and now how do you get out of this view? You can either hit 0. Something strange has happened to the way this is moved. So I'm not sure what's going on. There we go. Now it's back to normal. I don't know why it was doing that. One of the other buttons you've got here too is the period. And that will zoom you in directly on whatever it is that you have selected. So if you have something selected over here, say we select the camera and I hit 0, it'll take me to the camera so I can find it really quickly. Handy little trick. Especially if the zoom is starting to act weird for some reason. It happens sometimes. So that's how we can move around and move the camera. We can move the views. We can change what it is we're seeing. There's one thing left to talk about for right now, and that is a light. This is a lamp that has come already turned on. You've got some settings and things that we can mess with later. But for now, we're just going to pay attention to the idea that you can move your lamp around just like any other object. And where it is changes what you see for how the light goes. So as I move the lamp here, it changes where the light is at. And you have their little light here, your stick here for kind of reference. So depending on where you put it, lights you're seeing in different ways. And you can make them brighter, and you can put in multiple lights. There's all kinds of stuff you can do with your light. So you can do that. Rotating this one doesn't make any difference that I've ever found. As far as the lamp, you can turn it into other things like a spotlight, and obviously those you'll have to rotate them and aim them at what it is that you want to highlight with your area lights or spotlights and things like that. And then the sunlight is a whole different thing. We'll get into that later. But that's your basic. That's how you light your scene. Without a lamp on, I'm going to hide our lamp and render it. This one still gets some light because of the way the default's set up. So let's bring our lamp back. Okay, so that's the basics for moving around, for moving your shapes. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to take this box here and we're going to erase it. We hit delete, or you can hit X, either one, and then confirm that you want to delete it. And to add something, we're going to go clear to the left. We've got a tools tab, and then right below it we have a Create tab. We're going to pick a couple different items here. This first one is a UV sphere. This one kind of has a latitude and longitude style, sort of looks like a disco ball. This is all made with squares and parallelograms and things like that, so it kind of gives you a square shape. This way you can really see how the different faces are arranged, so that kind of helps you control the sizing in one way. So we're going to scale that down. We're going to move it off to the side. Now, by the way, this little guy here, wherever he is when you add something, this little life ring, that's where your stuff's going to come in. So if you're over here and you're adding stuff, it's going to pop up over here. If you want to change that, go back down here to 3D cursor and just set it back to 0, and then take it back to the center. So whatever you create will show up there, wherever this guy is. So let's see, we've got another thing here. We could add it's called an icosphere. These spheres are different. You see that these are all made with triangles. Every shape is a triangle instead of this one where they're all squares and parallelograms. So this one's triangles. It gives you a different set of options later when it comes to putting faces on it. So you can do that as well. And you can change these to actually be fairly smooth if you want. When you first bring them in, one of the easiest times to do it is right here. You have the option down here in the left corner to set a bunch of the initial stuff. That this actually doesn't pop up once you start changing it. So if we add a subdivision 3 or 4 times, it actually gets quite smooth. But it still has the same overall pattern. So we'll move that one. We'll put him back here. Right there. We have a cylinder. Again, down here, before you move it, you can change how many edges, how many vertices are on it. You can go all the way down to 3 and really kind of make it more of a triangle. 4, 5, 6, 7. You get the idea. You can go all the way up. I think the default is somewhere around 30, 32, something like that. Pretty smooth. And then you can actually smooth it out also in other options. Scale and rotate and everything on these work just like your other options with the box. And then you can just play with these. One of the fun ones is Monkey. I think she's called Suzanne. Yes, that is an actual monkey head. And she's kind of handy because she has a bunch of sort of a complicated face and a bunch of different things for shapes and things. She's fun to practice with for lighting and textures and things because it's just not a simple shape, but something you can easily duplicate and bring back in. So that's the monkey head. Do you see a monkey on here? Yes, that's an actual monkey. We're not going to get into the curves and lines and stuff now. So those are your basic shapes. That's how you move them around. You can combine them, you can scale them, you can rotate them. And we are going to save this file. I'm going to save this as lesson 1. Save the Blender file here and close it out. And that's going to be the end of our first lesson.